Members of the U.S. Congress have introduced the Blue Skies for Taiwan Act. It's an initiative to boost US-Taiwan drone cooperation and forge a supply chain free from China reliance. U.S. officials in Taiwan have also publicly stressed the urgency of Taiwan's drone investments, noting it will not only reshape Taiwan's security but also create vast business opportunities. Ultimately, partnership between U.S. and Taiwan firms are set to play a big role in the global drone industry. This is the director of the American Institute in Taiwan, that is the de facto U.S. embassy, discussing drones in a 2024 interview with CNA. Take a look.
Over about 90% of the consumer drones in the world are produced in China. So there's a huge focus on how we can diversify the supply chains and create a secure supply chain to meet the demand in a secure way. And I think Taiwan and the U.S. are especially well positioned to partner in this area. We have a very dynamic drone technology sector in the United States. And Taiwan is a very dynamic, not only drone technology, but also production capability here in Taiwan. And so there's obvious areas for us to partner together.
So what are the primary components of the Blue Skies for Taiwan Act? Why is the drone industry drawing such intense focus, especially military drones? How can Taiwan and the U.S. cooperate in this domain, and how can they realistically decouple from the red supply chain? Moreover, how much will this boost Taiwan's development of asymmetric defense capabilities? Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Wenty Song. To discuss these issues and more, I'm joined by Dr. Kang Lee, Professor and Director of National Taiwan University's Unmanned Vehicles R&D Center, and Dr. H.P. Wang, Forward Horizon Group CTO, Chief Technology Officer. Dr. Wang, Dr. Lee, thank you both for coming to the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Washington is actively promoting U.S.-Taiwan drone cooperation, and Taiwan has also incorporated the drone industry into its key national industrial policies, hoping to strengthen Taiwan's asymmetric warfare capabilities and promote economic and industrial transformation. Take a look.
推动无人机产业是国家的重大政策。我们希望台湾的无人机产业能够成为台湾在全球无人机发展的亚洲中心，不仅仅守护台湾安全，也能够发挥嚇阻的效果，维护台海和平稳定的现状。
Let me start with you, Dr. Lee. So can you give us an overview about what are the main core components of this U.S. Blue Skies for Taiwan Act of 2026, and why is it happening now?
Yes, the Blue Skies for Taiwan Act of 2026 is aimed to establish a secure PRC-independent drone supply chain by integrating Taiwan's manufacturing capacity with U.S. defense systems. This bill makes a critical turning point in U.S. defense policy. It shifts focus from costly legacy platform towards mass-produced, expandable, and intelligent autonomous systems to deter a potential conflict in the Taiwan-Strait. And the core components of these legislations include Blue U.S. Working Group, co-led by the Department of State and the Department of War to audit Taiwan's industrial capacity and identify qualified component suppliers. Secondly, is expedited certification, creating a fast-track compliance process to clear Taiwanese drone parts for the U.S. military use hardware. Thirdly, sanitize supply chains, prohibiting the use of Chinese manufactured components in this joint system to prevent cyber tampering and supply chokeholds. Lastly, is allied defense framework, structuring regional co-production agreements to scale drone manufacturing across trusted partners.
All right, thank you for that, running through the highlights of this act, Dr. Lee. Let me come to you, Dr. Wang. Let's zoom in a little bit more on the more straight-up military part of the equation. What's your take on the view that this legislation, Blue Skies for Taiwan Act, reflect a structural shift in U.S. defense policy? Like some people say, it's a move from a more traditional platform-centric warfare into a more, I guess, software-distributed forms of drone warfare. What's your take?
Yeah, absolutely. The U.S. clearly dominates in what are called exquisite technologies, including these platforms like what we have here in Taiwan, the F-16, M1 Abrams. These are very big, very expensive, and few in number. Now, the structural shift is towards the many and the small and the more less expensive, the cheaper the better. And this is reflecting what is going on in the Ukrainian battlefield and what is going on in world conflict today, as we are clearly seeing that the cheaper components are actually, from a cost equation, doing a lot to basically render these expensive systems to be useless. And we see that not only in Ukraine, but also in Iran and other conflicts around the world as well.
All right, big number of cheap stuff, as some people put it in more plain everyday language before.
Right.
To what extent do you think Taiwan is being embedded into this sort of US ally framework as either a manufacturing node, maybe an operational testing ground, or maybe even a forward defense partner?
Yeah, I would say that the first and the third especially so. As we all know, Taiwan is amongst the foremost countries in the world that have the ability to manufacture things at scale and at a very good cost. So this is the whole cost down equation that Taiwanese are very good at, and translating the experience from consumer electronics. We are already producing more than 90% of the world's advanced semiconductors, but also more than 90% of AI servers and other consumer electronic goods. So we can translate those advantages and those economies of scale into this new industry, including drones and robotics in general.
Thank you for that, Dr. Wang. So let me expand a little bit more on this more direct US-Taiwan industrial cooperation part that both of our speakers just mentioned. So to break free from a China-centered red supply chain, Taiwan has been actively researching, developing, and strengthening military drone technology while trying to collaborate with relevant U.S. defense industries to enable local manufacturing in Taiwan through technology transfer. Take a look.
我们跟 Andrew 合作的一套我们讲的这个自主巡弋的武器系统。那这套武器系统它本身有4大特色，本身具有模组化生产，而且大量部署、机动发射以及协同作战能力的武器系统。那我们强调2个重点，第一个就是台美合作开发，第二个呢，我们是技转本土生产。
This idea of joint development in US-Taiwan defense industrial coordination, what would you say are some of the defining areas in this process?
Yeah, so if we look at things from a technological standpoint, we can consider it a technology stack. So from the very bottom are things like the ICs and chips and semiconductors, down to firmware, systems level and integration, all the hardware. Then from there, you've got middleware, and then you've got software and application level, right? And then also networks of different products coming together. So Taiwan is particularly good at the lower part of the technology stack, and America is particularly good at the top level, including the application areas. So this is a natural harmony and a win-win scenario for Taiwan, especially in the hardware, chips, and systems level, to assist in creating completed systems, and also needs and can benefit from American technologies that are on the upper part of the stack, including AI software that we're all very focused on these days as well.
Yeah, are there one or two like particular technological domains that seem to be a particular focus at the moment?
Absolutely. So for example, on the communication domain, it's extremely important because as we're seeing in Ukraine, that's a major problem from navigation. You can't use GPS because of electronic warfare and jamming, et cetera. But communication in general is of extreme importance for an island state such as Taiwan as well, not to be able to communicate with the rest of the world. So both on the long distance communication as well as communication with whether it be drones, jets, or whatever other assets happen to be there are extremely important. Also, in terms of coordinating between the different items, the communication and navigation is important. And also, of course, AI, as we just mentioned.
Yes,
those
that's
systems.
a hot buzzword for everybody.
Exactly. So this is also something that we're already embedded and we're already participating with AI as pertains to cloud AI, ChatGPT, LLMs, AI server systems. That's great. But now there's a shift of that software capability onto what are called edge devices, things that move.
Edge devices.
Like robots, like wearables, like other things besides your desktop or your, or what's on the cloud, basically. So this is also known as physical AI, and this is another area that Taiwan has great natural advantages to dominate. So it's not just about defense, it's also about a whole new sector of industry that Taiwan is very well positioned to dominate with its current existing technologies and competencies.
Thank you. I like the idea about physical AI. It's a great visualization for us as well.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee, let me ask you about, I guess, US-Taiwan ecosystem when it comes to drone here. Like, how do you see Taiwan, US, how they are complementing each other in terms of building this emerging drone ecosystem? What will be some technological, industrial, maybe strategic benefit that each side can provide to each other?
Yes, I pretty much agree with Dr. Wang's. There is a synergy between U.S. and Taiwan's industry. We know that most of the U.S. drone company in this defense industry are startup company. Mm-hmm. They are very good at innovations, AI technology development, swarm, UXV technology development. However, they probably don't have a mass production experience. Unlike Taiwan's top 6 contract manufacturing company, they have been working on mass production for more than 4 decades. So there is a strong synergy between Taiwanese industry and U.S. company. And besides the semiconductor, the AI supply chains, I believe Taiwan's traditional manufacturing company is also very crucial, for the success of Taiwan-U.S. cooperation on all domain unmanned vehicles supply chain development.
Right. I like the comparison between startup, which are nimble and have the innovation flexibility, versus, I guess, more established, bigger size company, which have that economy of scale when it comes to actually producing stuff physically. How do you look at this, Dr. Wang, in terms of how we know that Pentagon has been having these 2 initiatives, right? The Blue UAS roster, and there's this thing called Replica initiative as well. I just wondering how, from your perspective, how do you think Taiwan fits into this? What kind of opportunities or potential benefit might derive for Taiwan's participation?
So what we're seeing emerging both through Blue UAS, which is called blue because it doesn't want to be red, as the red countries are China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, right? So because they are considered adversary countries to the West, if you will, that's why they call it the Blue UAS. And so Taiwan fits very neatly into there, fulfilling the capacity for actually making a lot of these components, particularly. I think that's where we particularly shine, because the designs are actually coming out in Ukraine on the low end for the what are called asymmetric technologies, including the smaller drones, what we call the Group 1 drones, whereas the bigger, fancier, more exquisite technology drones like the Reaper and the Predator and the Global Hawk, America is really good at. So on the large scale, on the bigger systems, America is very good at. Ukraine has a smaller system, but both require hardware, require manufacturing, require components, and require that supply chain. And that's where Taiwan particularly shines, especially as regards to being a blue supply chain partner.
So let's zoom out a little bit more and unpack this. So Taiwan's military drone development centers on asymmetric warfare, as we discussed earlier, and on building towards a non-red supply chain. It has been led by the National Zhongshan Institute of Science and Technology, NCSIST, and integrated with domestic aerospace and tech giants to form an industrial chain. Now, the process is about leveraging the advantages of this non-red supply chain. Exports of Taiwan's military and commercial grade drones are experiencing great growth recently, with the export value of complete drones reaching $150 million in the first quarter of 2026 alone, far surpassing the total amount for the entire year of 2025. Watch.
So everything is associated with the low-cost mass production drone. A missile is $2 million. This we can make less than 100万人民币, less than $30,000. So this is something that we want to present to our military, present to the world. We have also our own engine. So with the engine developed with the explosive, that is today's technology. Next. because we can build 1,000 guns.
Dr. Lee, what's your take in terms of where Taiwan stands at the moment in drone technology, manufacturing capability, and export potential?
I believe we should, at this moment, focus on the key component, mass productions, to fulfill both domestic and also international democratic allies' needs. And we can gradually develop an ecosystem together with our democratic allies, because if we want to incubate the high-tech companies in this domain, it takes time. We also need to train more young talents to join this industry. So we know that when it comes to UXV, it actually requires system engineering expertise, not just electronics, one domain know-how. But we don't actually have a very strong foundation in system engineering inside Taiwan. So we need to gradually pick up those areas, and we can strengthen our foundation together with our Western country democratic allies. They can work together with our local Taiwanese company.
So would I be correct if I understand what you said to mean that at the moment Taiwan's priority is to focus on scale, ability to manufacture en masse?
Yeah, and to be honest, I can forecast as the UAV industry would be like AI industry. Each country wants to have some ownership and control. So probably we will have a similar statement like sovereign AI or sovereign UXV, because nowadays the civilian application drone can be weaponized easily, become the asymmetric warfare means. Yeah. So each country, they want to possess or control this technology on their own is understandable. So yeah. Taiwan should learn how to become a trustworthy partner to our democratic allies. That's my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think they go about doing it, though?
Yeah, I think we start with the hardware, firmware, key components, development and manufacturing. At the same time, we can also provide maybe solutions, maybe software-defined vehicles solutions for our customers overseas. For some clients, maybe in the Middle East or maybe in the Southeast Asia country, they probably are not good at the software development, unlike US company. They probably need more comprehensive solutions. But for US customer, probably they don't want to use Taiwan software, but it doesn't matter. We can provide turnkey solution for them. So I mean, Taiwanese industry culture actually are very flexible, yeah, and we can provide all kinds of solution or product, for the customers.
Flexibility, name of the game for Taiwan. So, Dr. Wang, let me ask you about this. The question is, we are trying to build in Taiwan an indigenous drone industry, of course, and the question then has always been that when China seems to be such a major player in terms of so many different components required to make a drone, how indigenous really is Taiwan's attempt at building indigenous drone industry? Like, is Taiwan still relying on components built by China, for example, or are there ways to get around it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's extremely difficult to disentangle the supply chain, knowing how complex it is. So if you want every single screw or piece of metal to not have anything to do with China, that can be extremely difficult. But I will say this, that amongst the world standard, I believe Taiwan has the highest standard in terms of non-Chinese components because of our proximity and because of how much we care. Even more so than the United States, actually, to be totally honest with you, and even more so than other countries that are actively in battle, including Ukraine. So if there's any one place that can achieve this, decoupling from China, I actually think it would be Taiwan, because we also have that capability to find those parts and components and then make them indigenously either here on Taiwan or in nearby allied countries as well.
Just to follow up on that question, in terms of trying to mitigate China reliance with these components, is there one or two roadmap or direction that Taiwan is trying to work towards in terms of mitigating that reliance?
Yeah, I think obviously if you've got to start with the central sensitive systems first. So anything that touches the data, including the chips, the systems, the boards, the sensors, etc. And needless to say, Taiwan already has dominance in a lot of these areas. So it's already very natural that things are being produced in Taiwan here. But again, where you're coming down to things like motors and batteries, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult. Now, you can make almost anything, but it's also about the cost equation. So with Taiwan's costs and obviously you can't compete on the same level of economies of scale as China. So things will naturally cost more, but that's where national policy has to come into play. And if you really want to develop that indigenous industry, unfortunately, at least at first, you have to pay for it while you develop the scale. So I think that would be part of the strategy, is to figure out how to develop that scale and encourage indigenous industries, even if they don't have cost parity with China, but to still encourage that industry to move forward. And I think that is partly where international supply chains and aggregating demand will actually play an important part. So going back to that, if Taiwan can be a supplier not just for Taiwan's needs, but for the rest of the Western allied countries, then we can aggregate that demand and then also achieve similar economies of scale and therefore cost parity, which is so important these days.
What's your take, Dr. Lee, in terms of the same issue? How do you see Taiwan goes about mitigating China reliance? What will be some direction Taiwan's working on?
Yeah, I believe Taiwan now has a very good chance to enter the Western countries' market, especially the US and also recently EU. They also create their certification standards, so they care about the rare supply chains issues. So Taiwan can use this opportunity to build a strong tie with both European and US drone companies, and we can provide trustworthy products and also with high quality and also less concern about national security issue, cyber security issues would be a big plus. For Taiwanese drone company or drone component suppliers compared with Chinese drone component supplier. Yeah, we recently also heard that Ukraine company are also seeking non-rare supply chain from Taiwan, because they also have a similar concern about Chinese companies maybe stealing some information from the device sold to Ukraine. Yeah, so the core value of Taiwan's drone industry, I believe, should be trust. Yeah.
So let me expand this discussion to the more military application of this story, which is how do you see, Dr. Lee, how do you see the onset of drones is changing the face of how a potential Taiwan contingency might look like? Like when it comes to actual battleground scenario, do you see drone being used mainly for maybe enhanced intelligence gathering, or maybe more about like delaying amphibious operation, or did it actually change Taiwan's first strike capability somehow?
Yeah, it's a very important question, but at this moment, my answer is that we are actually behind the schedule, and we should ramp up our productions. And we should work together with our democratic ally, including U.S., European defense company in this domain, because Taiwan's drone manufacturer don't have battlefield experience. They don't have a so-called battlefield proven drone design like Ukrainian company. So we should work together with our like-minded countries, like-minded democratic allies companies, work together. And if we only work alone, and it won't be successful, because all the weapon system, no matter which country, must go through this kind of battlefield validation process.
Right. Fascinating discussion. Unfortunately, that's about all the time we have today. But I'd like to thank you, of course, Dr. Lee, Dr. Wang, for your insights today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's our show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please come check us out on YouTube. And until next time, it's good night from us from Taiwan.